mythical, imaginary great parents that's children just don't make no sense does not exist.
And there are people whose like economic legacies will live on. But for instance, Michael Jackson, right? His legacy lived and died with him. Nobody's looking to his white daughter to go out and he across the stage.
Like fellas like Nick Cannon, fellas like Cam Newton, where they really be thinking that the money de-niggifies them.
People are expressing wanting to raise daughters because it feels like there's a sense of control and domination that they want.
Why is he fighting so hard for this if he doesn't plan to take care of the child? What do they think that being a father is my question, I guess.
Nick Cannon is not in these households. Nick Cannon, the only thing that Nick Cannon knows is the woman that he chose, and he knows how he treats the woman that he chose, and he does not want his daughter to end up like the woman that he chose. But
That makes me shame.
I
Anyway.
find my way out.
Foreign beat you to it.
Okay, we have all kind of foolishness to discuss. I think we have a matinee of topics because we have Tiffany Haddish and Jason Lee having a baby,
Allegedly.
which sounds crazy, right? Yeah.
Girl.
And then the next topic, it would be Nick Cannon saying that he doesn't want his millions of daughters to grow up and
Not millions, bro.
You know he got the super sperm.
Oh my God.
Hell is hard.
Don't mess.
Hell is hard.
I think it's funny when men say like they don't want their daughters with men like them, but if anybody were to say that a man like them ain't shit, it's a problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like otherwise Nick Cannon defends himself on every other occasion when people are dragging his ability to be like a good father and a good person. He's like, liar, y'all don't know nothing about nothing. We got to fucking schedule a routine. Then it's like, oh no, but I hope my daughters don't grow up and be with nobody like me.
Even more so because
I
like
can't
as a dad, I get into these circles and a big whistle, like a dog whistle for them is, oh, I know my daughter could be a heartbreaker, so I can have the shotgun ready. And it just shows you the mentality that like they already thinking because of how they are as a man that they need to be an aggressor towards them type of because they know them, because they are them. So like that's the dog whistle I be hearing all the time. They be, if you listen long enough, they can tell on themselves.
Every single time. And it's why I think it's the funniest thing when men go, oh, if I were like everybody, at least black people, I said black people be like, if you get a daughter, if a man gets a daughter, that means he did some in his past. And
That's
it's a
a
curse. And it's your
Daughters
curse.
is a curse.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I'm about to throw up.
This is no, because it's really what people be saying. And it really be blowing mine a little bit because I look and I'm just like, there's no way. But it also goes into the space of like, this is why people raise daughters in defense and raise boys in offense a lot of the time. And so like, even the ways in which we go about like building up girls a lot of the time, particularly like black girls, it's more so of like, oh, you need to be scared of the world because the world's going to do you dirty. And so when you have legacies of like black women saying like, everybody goes through it, it's one of these coming of age things you have to deal with in terms of like a man and whatever you have to deal with, whether it's violence or whether it's infidelity or something, you're going to go through it, whether you want that to be true or not. And so when I see fathers, and that's why I'm just like, it's always fascinating when we see like the girl dad phenomenon begin to happen, because it feels like almost like an overcorrection of like, hey, we need to be able to like be excited around having daughters. But most dads who have girls are like also super scared because they're like, I know how the world works and I don't want you to go through that, because I was also a participant in that kind of world as to what Foreign was getting to. And so I just find it like the most fascinating thing to hear somebody like Nick Cannon say this, because is he even, I don't truly believe he has the capacity to truly like raise these black girls in the ways in which that is like provides like true provision and protection and also allows them to navigate the world. Now, granted, there's a class difference that may happen, but like other than that, I don't trust that man and those opinions.
He
No.
don't have. Oh, sorry.
I don't trust this man with a flashlight, to be honest.
Like, right. Oh, my. I don't think he has the capacity to raise any kids. Male. Oh, wait. A what?
Herbie, let it go, or you won't go. We can talk about it, or we don't have to. Or where you was going.
We can talk about it.
We can
or
ignore
don't
it,
have to.
or we could go like full down, double down on it. No,
No, because you know how you say like, oh yeah, got it, and then you realize that at 30 seconds later, wait, what, nigga, what? Neither here nor there. Focusing in on Nick Cannon independent of whatever it is that Foreign just said, I don't think that he has the capacity to raise any kids. Oh, let's move on. As a community, let's move on. I don't know. Okay, so I feel like he doesn't have the capacity to raise any kids. And this is what I was going to say initially. I think that the reason why I don't know if Nick Cannon is going to get so much pushback from this, one is his kids. I don't really care. Or his community. I don't really care. But also it's because I think we romanticize male domination and the idea of like a corporal father, like a father who is going to, instead of asking ourselves as a community what it looks like to, I guess, create a better world, a safer world for little girls, particularly Black girls. It's just easier to say that this falls under the guidelines of being a father, right? To be, I guess, to represent a kind of male domination that would like scare off the kinds of men like you, your friends, your boys, as opposed to just, I don't know, being a better person, raising better sons, like all agreeing. I don't know what a concept, but those are my initial thoughts. Actually, also have not seen this video, so there's also that.
I mean, my knee-jerk thought for a person like Nick Cannon has always been this reminder that I get from a friend of mine who works in pediatrics, and she's like, you never realize how much people don't see children as humans and people until you work with the parents that are dealing with children all the time. And so when I think of a Nick Cannon, particularly his desire or grand master plan of having a bunch of kids in general, right? It's never like, I would like to be the father to X amount of children. I would like to be like a present person to X amount of children. Regardless of how much access he has to help because of his money, he's still just one person. Like logistically, how do you have face-to-face time with all these children? What little I've heard about him being explicit about his motivations was like his own anxieties of his own mortality. And he likes the idea of having a bunch of kids that look like him to carry on his name. So there's a very like selfish reason to do that.
It's certainly not that look like him.
Oh.
Well, you know, like
well,
on a track.
He does have a clear-cut agenda, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If we were shooting for looking like us, we'd go in a different direction, is what I'm saying.
Oh, you mean, oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
I also hate that. Let me tell y'all this. Also, too, as a junior, this is an aside, maybe.
Same.
I hate the idea of
Are you a junior?
your children.
Wow.
I am. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to talk
HG.
about it. Girl, we're not going to talk about it. Listen, as a
I'm
junior, I have
too.
always, and me and my father could not be more different. As you know, I put the buoyant in flamboyant, and my father is, hard body, traditionally masculine, heterosexual man.
Was he in the military?
Big body. They keep bringing it back. Honestly, they keep bringing it back.
Well, no, Marquise, we've had this conversation, right?
Look, the Lord recently has very much so been cracking me up.
At the time.
I cannot be on a panel with any other queer men because I get flirted with once an episode.
her be like, not too much, like
for real.
Her be like, nah, I'm gonna have to. Like,
I'm so straight.
Not even humble you, but
subjects.
now I have to make it plain. Now I have to make it plain because also I've seen these comments. Marquise is my home girl. Okay,
That's wild.
live for him down. Think that he's a great person, but it's not giving what the children of the comments are saying that it's giving. This is just the way that I keep.
Not you being shut.
But let's move on to something more substantial and based in reality. What I was saying about me being a junior. I hate the idea that parents feel like their children is their legacy. In the words of Maya Angelou, your legacy lives on all the hearts of that you touched, but also you can't really identify what your legacy will be. This is what Maya Angelou said to Oprah, right? And so I feel like you thinking that someone else who is not you, like you work for waste management. Shout out to the working for waste management. You work for waste management. You a chef. You do these things, and you think that this child who is doing whatever, maybe they're an attorney, maybe they're sick, whatever. Your legacy lives and dies with you. Their legacy lives and dies with them. That's why it's their legacy. And when Nick Cannon is creating all these light-skinned children to have his legacy live on to these people who don't really look much like him, it's like, it is the height of like a male ego, I feel like, to feel like, oh, anything remotely attached to me is mine. Anything you do belongs to me as well. Your successes are mine, minus the failures.
This
But
is
I don't live for that.
Kenny.
Okay.
Can I have, so, oh, I'm sorry. Did I cut somebody off?
No, Kenny, ask your question because I have a
I do
And
have
I
a
have
question.
a follow-up for Herbie.
Okay. I had, at the risk of going a little bit in a different direction, I am currently researching a video, and there's a component about it where it goes into how a girl got pregnant and she wanted to have an abortion, and essentially her boyfriend came to the clinic screaming at her not to get an abortion. That's my child, idiot. They're like 20 years old, both of them. So they're like, the feasibility of him being able to comfortably raise this child, and also she was trying to be a pop star, so like, who's raising this child, whatever, right? And the entire time I was hearing this story, I was like, why is he fighting so hard for this if he doesn't plan to take care of the child? And this is like a reoccurring thing that I've heard a lot of people being like, it's not about taking care of the child, because I don't think of children as children again. I don't think of them as people.
Sons that they won't raise will just magically be Michael Jordan. Like, he will, in fact, though, be a big thing just because my fantastic DNA will like ascend you to heights I've never known.
What do they think being a father is my question, I guess.
They don't rate that much. Also, a lot of them don't think. I think what it is too is a lot of people are operating off a blueprint that they've experienced. And so you would think that means they'd be like, oh my God, I'll never. But what it means is for them to raise the standard from where their absent or bad father was, it isn't much. So usually what it is they've had a daddy that was a total piece of shit. And then they're like, okay, well, I do this. I pay my child support, or I do some bare minimum thing that feels to them like more than what they experience. And so they can justify it. To what Herbie was saying about juniors, my daddy, and I hate to be giving my daddy credit because I'm annoyed with him right now in life, but my daddy is big on being anti people naming their children after. My daddy thinks that's the most arrogant thing on earth, to name your child after. He's like, who are you? He'd be like, he'd it all the time. When my daddy be like, look at them, nobody. like my daddy feels strongly about that. Mind you, I end up naming my son after CJ because I have lost this fight, but I might get a Nigerian name into the name. But I feel this way strongly because my daddy, like, we're in Europe, and they believe that what basically like what you name your child or whatever has an impact on who they become, right? Which is why it's funny to me that like my name is Olaymi, which means like affluence befits me, and I'm like, affluence befits anybody. That doesn't mean you more likely to have affluence. like, did you think this one through? But I say all to say, Herbie, yes, we're in agreement of the anti. I always be thinking that because I think sometimes what it does too is like create this idea, make children feel that they are in some way like ordainedly tethered to their parents. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like both for the bad and for the good. If their parent is somebody who's really successful, the pressure of that. If their parent is not somebody who isn't successful, a feeling like that is spoken over them. They're not going to be nothing or whatever. Yada yada yada. So I tend to be anti naming children after their parents for this exact reason.
Yeah, I think it's been
go for Marquise.
Yeah, but what I've been like super interested in is like more and more studies are suggesting that parents, especially like with IVF and being able to like select gender and stuff like that, well, select sex and stuff like that. I think it's been really interesting that a lot of families have been moving and shifting to wanting more daughters than they want sons. And it's been interesting because it's almost like this alarm that has been happening when you see shows like Adolescence starting to come out and people talking around like the dangers of raising a boy in a modern context. I've been interested to kind of see that. Also, when you see like the trad wife content, there's almost like this pervasiveness, in my opinion, that is happening when people are expressing wanting to raise daughters because it feels like there's a sense of control and domination that they want, but also able to preserve their legacy in another kind of way. And so if I get a daughter, I can at least instill certain values in them in order to get them to move a certain way. And so it was interesting hearing like Kenny and Herbie talk a little bit around like some of their topics, because I'm reflecting on like, oh, but also in this world that is shifting, less men are graduated from college, less men are wanting to enter the workforce, or at least they are entering the workforce later in life. And so even in that, there's almost like this telling piece of like, oh, will I have a son that's living with me until until they're 30? Is my son going to be successful because they are seeing the trend of women on trend to outpace men in terms of like work and position and power and education and status. And so it's interesting even kind of seeing some of like the economic implications that people have been having in regards to expressing that they want daughters over wanting sons. But I think it's also a fear of like, I don't know how to raise boys in this modern context, that it almost feels like a prophecy that's being fulfilled of like, boys are difficult to be raising in this kind of space right now. So that's what I was just thinking around as we are like thinking around like the wanting of girl dads a lot more in the PR that comes around it, but also like the very real things that we saw and seeing this data even after like the elections and seeing like where are men actually shifting a lot of their focus. And so it's funny to even see like deciding on your preference of daughters over sons is like, it's a political choice, it's an economic choice, but then also a cultural shift that we are seeing in terms of like how people think it is easier. And I used to be like, and I heard growing up, they were like, nah, girls are difficult. I ain't trying to raise no girls. But like that language has significantly shifted, being in the classroom, working with some of the students, working with some of the parents. I'm like, oh, it's not just like up in the ether of like just me nerding out and reading like random economist stuff. This is actually like cultural shifts that are subtly happening if you're really paying attention.
I think people think that.
And like
when you even brought that up, I was thinking, because I don't have any sibling. Like I have an older sister, so I didn't grow up with boys as having siblings. And one of my anxieties is like having a son. I don't know how to raise a son in general. I wasn't raised with one. So now I'm like, now it's even harder because people be weird out here, and boys be sucked into weird ass echo chambers quicker than any other time period, and that's scary. Like even if
I think like it's
the average parent.
Like what you're all talking about, like especially as I think the only dad here.
I have a lot of sons foreign.
Oh Lord, you see, you going back here. I'm not falling for that bait. As the only dad here, right? The politics of child, like there's a pro-natalist agenda right now afoot. And you have, it's always interesting to me when I hear about the Nick Cannons and the Cam Newtons and them, because you have that across the backdrop of course, fellas like Elon Musk, of Peter Thiel, of J.D. Vance, who are all literally outspokenly saying that there is an agenda to try to populate the earth with as much children as possible. J.D. Vance got in front of a microphone and said, I can't wait until American women have more babies. So there's an agenda. And that's policy, political, as well as like in the rhetoric, there's like a lot of foot to make sure that women have absolutely no autonomy, or people that can have children have absolutely no choice but to have them damn children. And it's interesting when you bring in race into the aspect, because in cases like Nick Cannon and them, they have beguiled themselves into thinking that because they got this money, that they ain't. You get me? So like when Nick Cannon, Nick Cannon feel as though, okay, I could have all these damn children like Elon Musk and all of them, even if they're not thinking of the politics of that, they are negating the aspect of the fact that they are still bringing black children into the world. And we could get into the ethics of all of that, because I have to reckon with that on a regular basis. Every time when I see my child, I think about like bringing a child into a very moribund planet, a very unsustainable planet, a planet that also in particular pockets universally sees black people and black boys in particular as militant, as criminal by default. And I love the fact that I live in a black nation where he could at least imagine outside of that for a little bit. I mean, we still got white supremacy, don't get it twisted, but like he could see across from him black people and he's not othered immediately. You know, like we could go into we ain't got no Walmart or nothing like that where we could walk into and then there's a little white woman looking down at him and looking at him as though he's weird. And then he's trying to figure out, well, wait, why am I weird? He don't have to have that. And I love that. But at the same time,
Unless he try to go like for key.
well, you
Hey,
damn, and
yo.
you know that my mom trying to get him to go down there, and I ain't trying to go and have that shit. Ain't no way. But ultimately, I think that there's something to reckon with the idea and the intersections of the class and the race when it comes to especially like fellas like Nick Cannon, fellas like Cam Newton, where they really be thinking that the money de-niggifies them. And that has so many
I'm not black.
ramifications.
I'm OJ. That's what it
Exactly.
is.
Exactly. All of a sudden they flick and think that they Dominican and say, I know black. But the whole point of the matter is, it's a very interesting intersection when you get into race and class into that. And I really wonder about the politics when it comes to him for that.
So, Omar, I know you've been waiting.
No, I was, because my thing, it sounds like it's all just a control play. Because anytime that I ever hear like Nick Cannon or Cam Newton talk about having their kids, it's not about any sort of parenting other than like a controlling aspect. They're never talking about the great things that they're doing, the wonderful things that they're doing, how happy they are to be a father, waking up on Father's Day. It's always about how they can control them in a place that they potentially lost control. And then I'm going to have more kids to lay my legacy, which I can control some way, shape, form, or fashion, even though all Nick Cannon's kids could end up being like the most terrible people in the world. But that doesn't matter. And that's even to the girl point that you were saying, Marquise. Oh, I want to have a bunch of girl children as opposed to boy children, because I think it's easier to control the girls because my boy children are being controlled by like Kai Cenat and Andrew Tate or something like that. So
immediately. And I think it's like interesting because now that I'm thinking around it, and I'm gonna get on my theater bag real quick, but like when I was studying theater and violence specifically, I focused in on lynching dramas. And even in lynching dramas, there's a recurring theme of like, there were mostly Black women playwrights, but like the plays took space in the house. But a lot of the themes that came through were infanticide. And so even in that, if the Black women knew that they were pregnant and they found out they had a son, they had to make a choice of like, am I willing to raise, going to Foreign's point to connect it, am I willing to raise my son in a world where he is more than likely going to be lynched? And whose job is it to take him out of the world? Is it the mom's job? Is it the parent's job? Is it the world? Should white people do it? And right, and there's like this consistent reckoning of this through line, especially from like the 1890s up until like 1943, of lynching dramas that consistently had like these themes. So to hear this is still 2025, the violence isn't necessarily lynching anymore. The violence just transformed into police violence, state violence, whatever we want to call it today, white supremacy. And so I think it's like interesting to see, even over a century ago, this conversation is being had amongst women who are formerly enslaved, currently enslaved, and they are trying to develop plays to like express these very similar sentiments. And so like what Foreign is actually getting at is a very similar sentiment of like, one, what does it mean to raise a Black child in this time? And as parents, are we also feeling guilty around that? And which is why, even in some cases, the reasons that the boys are now connected to Omar's point, going to Andrew Tate's or going to the Kevin Samuels of the world, whatever. Well, anyways, rest in dirt. But sorry.
Look at the comments. Wait till you get to this time spot and look at the comments.
I know. But even in that moment, as connecting it, it's like right. Good to know. But even as we get to this point, it also makes you kind of realize, like, in that overprotection and over-policing of Black boys, they are going to find mentorship and validation in other spaces. And so, like, what are the unintended consequences of overprotecting Black boys from the world? And those unintended consequences might lead into having to find life and mentorship and experience through the lens of somebody else who has already lived life. And so I'm like thinking around now in this age of like raising a Black boy, wanting to protect them as much as possible because we don't want the world to like harm them. But then also the advent of social media brings it all together in a space of like, now they can get their life experience from never actually touching a hot stove. They just know the stove is hot in theory, but where can that then take them? And so who's responsible? And it turns into whose responsibility, who's accountable to it all. But like when you put all of these kind of things together, like thinking around what they were talking around in these lynching dramas over a century ago into social media now, and then the anxiety around raising Black boys, raising Black boys, it's been like I've been kind of just like meditating on like what this means and like what is prevention begin to look like, but also even when we choose how we choose to raise Black boys and Black girls. Because even in that like Tiffany Haddish piece, that was a Black girl, right?
The baby?
This
The baby?
dilemma, this dilemma is a personal, like a personal problem that people put on children. Like, I feel like
Mhm.
it's like, it's not about whether or not you have a boy. It's not about whether or not you have a girl. It's not about anything like that. Like, when I worry about like, oh, when I have children, it's not, I'm worried about this child, what kind of child will be less of a problem child. The children are not innately more or less problematic because they're a boy or a girl or something are wrong with the kids. I worry because I don't want to be my parents, and I feel like that's the how people should be looking at it. When we worry about all these, when you think of problem children, when I was growing up, I feel like I would always hear parents talking about children, talking about these good parents, this good home where their children were just rogues or just out or whatever. And as I'm 32 years old now as an adult, what I can tell you is I have never looked at like seeing a person while it whatever and then seeing their family and been like, I don't see how they came from this. Like, I've never felt that way. I can see exactly how there is that mythical, imaginary great parents that's children just don't make no sense does not exist. People are the product of their parents, of their DNA and how they were raised. You know what I mean? For me, when I worry about, how I'm going to raise my children, it's not necessarily because of the world and because, I worry about the external things that you worry about that, just you having Black children. But what I worry about is how I'm going to show up based on how I was raised. That's what people don't think about. It's like, you only really have it modeled after you, the kind of childhood that you had and the parents that you had. Like, sometimes something I'm conscious of is like, I love my parents. I love them because they're my parents and they obviously have their pros, but by God damn it, they have their cons. Okay. And I wouldn't put them out there on the internet, but I don't want to be my parents. Okay. at all. And sometimes like I catch myself, like I try to think a lot about the fact that we are them. Like, I have not lived in the same place with my parents since I was 14 years old. There's so many things that I do that is like my mom and dad. I chew my cheeks like them. I move like them. I whatever. Sometimes I'll be watching Instagram videos. Instagram will show me some videos of some children doing kid shit and and I'm so fucking irritated. I'm like, God, that's an annoying. And the comments are like, and I'm like, oh, it's me.
I'm the problem.
My mother.
They're just being kids. Got it.
Yo, my parents be like, I come from a household where my parents are irritated at children being children. Like, that's the only thing I know is like, when they see children being kids as being rude, being bad. So to me, it's about, what I worry about is that the thing that I feel like needs to be done, and a lot of people don't put the energy into thinking because they're so goddamn arrogant. Everybody just thinks they're magically going to be great parents. Like, I want kids. I mean, it's like, the reflection should be on you. It should not be on, how can I pick the right boy or girl, or what's the special combination? Can I order me an intersex baby? Maybe they'll be the best of both worlds. Like, no, it's like, you have to
wait a minute, hold on. That intersex baby Olay girl. Wait, hold on. Let me say this, because I feel like, for one, that was crazy, but two, I feel like also this fear that Nick Cannon is expressing, and like this fear that like I think a lot of people express around having children is about our expectation of gendered performance, right? Like, when we're talking about, I want to have a boy child, I want to have a girl child, is because you believe that people who are of a certain gender not only will perform a certain way, but should perform in a certain way and should exist in a certain way. And you know that you're going to raise them in lockstep with your ideas of how boys should behave and in lockstep with your ideas of how girls should behave. And as a person who believes that, or who understands that gender is largely a compulsory performance, right? That we are compelled into performing this idea of being a protector and being a nurturer. Not to say that there aren't people who feel naturally inclined to do those things, but largely those things are socio-political and socio-cultural, right? You're compelled into those things. I feel like the fears could be eradicated, one, if we abolish gender, or to not be so radical, if you just in your own home maybe decolonize your ideas around what it means to raise a son. I'll also say this too, and a daughter as well, because there is the piece of control. But the other thing that I wanted to say is like, what about the legacy piece, to whack my father once again? What happens when your kid fails to meet your idea of what your legacy is going to be, because people have already convinced themselves like this is what my legacy will be. And in the words of Maya Angelou, you have no idea what your legacy will be, but people have predetermined my legacy is going to be that, I was a real I was moving weight, couldn't fuck with me in the streets. These are the I'm talking about from where I come from, how the I know talk about. And now it's me.
That's actually so funny.
And so this is the friction. This is the friction that me and my dad had, because I'm like, what you wanted when you named me, when you branded me with your name, was to have a you 2.0. And I have no desire to be anything like you or to learn. Actually, I'm looking at you to find out what not to do. Another thing is, I did want to speak about to the capitalism piece, because obviously a piece of the way that we understand legacy is like a distribution or the continuation of wealth. And there are people whose like, economic legacies will live on. But for instance, Michael Jackson, right? His legacy lived and died with him. Nobody's looking to his white daughter to go out and he across the stage, because she's just not going to deliver. And then this is another thing about the superior genes thing. My last anecdote. My father has a friend who's 50, that's 5'5", and he just had his first child. Why? Because as they were running the streets as two young, he always said, "It's nobody. I can't find a woman worthy enough to have my child." Now, he has been at the same job for 30 years, gets good vacation, nice state job, good benefits. However, he's not shit. He's an awful person, a homophobe, and he also has his history, doing things that are violent in the community. So this idea, a lot of men are confused. They've been brainwashed into thinking that something about them is inherently superior. Your legacy, your legacy will live and die with you.
Yeah. And it's so sexist, because how rare is it that women name their children? Like, how rare is it that you hear that women are named after their mothers? Which, thank God not, Jesus. Well,
Beyonce.
Well, Herbie, the only issue with your first
Tina,
point,
Mama, hold on, Mama T, what's Mama Tina's full name?
Her
Celestine,
surname, or like
Beyonce.
her is that called surname? But what's the name called before marriage? Maiden name, right? Her maiden name was
Hold
Beyonce.
on, is it because it's like a straight thing? Wait, why is it for?
Not for victimizing himself. You just happen to be next to me, friend. This is happenstance. Okay. Wait, Omar, what were you about to say?
I was going to say, the only problem with your first point, though, is that, like, deconstructing these ideas from, society and people and stuff like that, is that you have to be in the household to do that. Nick Cannon is not in these households. Nick Cannon knows is the woman that he chose, and he knows how he treats the woman that he chose, and he does not want his daughter to end up like the woman that he chose, but he chose that woman. So you have to be in the household to do that. But sadly for Nick Cannon and Cam Newton and George Foreman and rest in peace, and Evander Holyfield and all these other men that go and just lay seed like they're farmers, they can't be in Georgia and Wisconsin at the same time. It's just literally physically impossible.
Right. Yeah, I don't think it's controversial, but I've said inside my personal life too that I don't think that you could properly father about four children from multiple households adequately. Like you can probably, at best provide some financial parenting, but that's different than actually providing nourishment, like nurturing a child. And I think that like what a lot of fathers unfortunately fall victim to is if they're able to perform financial adeptitude, they can do that. That's the end of the story. Right. And then they totally, in fact, after a while, end up neglecting and justifying the neglect of their children to a wild point. A lot of books that I read nowadays are parenting books. There's a book called Hunt, Gather, Parent that looks at a lot of the ways in which like non-Western parents parent their children. And one of the overwhelming things inside of there is just the obsession with American or more so Western parents and control. A lot of other places, it's more so about granting the child as much autonomy as possible. And I think that addresses so many different problems. I mean, like allowing the child, of course, like you're the guardrails preventing the child from doing anything that will literally harm themselves, right? Because like that's the first thing. But beyond that, allowing the child to just absolutely reign free and figure out exactly how they're going to do it, because children are far smarter than we give them actually credit for.
Yeah.
A lot of the times what we end up doing is creating a lot of these small trauma points in these children that change their trajectory in a multitude of different ways. I mean, something from like a conflict point is like bedtime. Or like even catering to trying to find ways to make the child stay inside a playpen and watch, I don't know, Coco Melon or some shit like that. Like, no, like in other cultures, the children comes along with them, like inside these hunter-gatherer cultures, like they go along with them into the fields and they, you know, picking grains and things like that, or like trying to find sustenance. And they are very much introduced into the real world very early on. And that ends up allowing them to feel value as a part of the family. A lot of the time what American parents end up doing is, and even to a different extent, like UK parents, is they have them in a specific zone where they're kind of groomed to be these non-familial family members where they don't do
parents?
Pardon?
What about Bahamian parents?
Yeah, I'm like, why you just say
we're
American?
very-
What about the
we're
Caribbean
very-
parents?
We're very westernized. I ain't gonna lie. So
Yeah.
like, in fact, I think that what we end up falling victim to a lot of the time is like, we don't have the same, and there ain't that much, but like we don't have the same guardrails as developed countries when it comes to like intervention spots. But the good thing about Bahamian parents, and the reason why I wanted to have my child here, is that we do have community. Like we do have a lot more community that I think I would have found if I was in the States. A lot more allo parents, like allo, I think there's a Latin word or Greek word for other parents. So like my child is getting bounced between me, my wife, then my ma, and then he's go to his grandfather on the weekdays, you know, and like he go here, and like he gets to have a multitude of different role models and different experiences, not like just dropping them off by a daycare, but more importantly, just a different amount of people that he could build an attachment to. Because what ends up happening is that one, the strain is put on the mother, and then the mother has to do a lot of the child rearing, and then that puts them also like into postpartum depression and all kind of other things. That also because of the fact that we don't take care of mothers after they have these children. Like there's no like structural.
Yeah.
Honestly, like if more mothers knew what they were getting into before actually becoming mothers,
They
they
wouldn't
would
do it.
not become mothers.
wouldn't do it.
Period. Like,
Yeah.
but the fact of the matter is, we don't tell them, and that's by design because
And
we
I think-
want to monopolize their bodies.
Because Foreign, what you are describing is that kind of community that you're talking around. These are just people who grew up in the hood, particularly in the PJs, because this
Absolutely.
is the multifamily unit, right?
Absolutely.
Like I think about it a lot. Like,
Multi-generational.
yeah, but it reminded me, one, when you were talking, it reminded me of like this article that Atlantic put out around the nuclear family was a scam, and like I just recommend that to a lot of people just to want to read. But the other piece that I was thinking around is like we have in America. The problem is, like, even when all these kidnappings were happening in the 90s and early 2000s, everybody became super, super like, we need to protect our children. We need to do this. We need to do this. We need to do this. And so we then became like, this generation, particularly Gen Z, is the safest generation to exist to date. And so if you think about it in that kind of perspective, the safest generation also doesn't have the ability to go outside in the real world all the time, right? And it's not to say like they're incapable, but they are functioning fundamentally differently. And this is somebody who is teaching Gen Alpha, Gen Z, managing them. And I look at it a lot of time and I'm just like, oh, because now you can track locations, because you can go take your kid from one Uber to another, so like almost the, again, unintended impact of hyper surveillance means that the child doesn't have the ability to build out integrity. The child doesn't need to be like, should I lie to my parent or should I not? Because my parent can always be watching me. And it doesn't mean like parents are wrong for wanting their children to be safe, but it does come to a space where now I am teaching social emotional learning. Can you identify healthy relationships? Do you know how to emotionally regulate? Are you a responsible decision maker? And these skills run pretty much like in one ear and out the other for my students a lot of the time. And what I'm noticing is because they don't have the ability to practice these soft skills in real life a lot of the time, unless it's the most dire of circumstances. And I'm not saying that's like everybody, but a large group of people are now running around where it's just like, oh, I don't have to touch a hot stove because they told me the stove has already been hot. I can read about how to swim. I never have to jump into the pool though, right? And so when you kind of move it like that, you're like, oh, when I am in situations where I need to trust my gut, or if this person does not feel safe, I can't articulate why. And that's something that I've been noticing is just like, oh, as latchkey kids, I had to experience the world. Whether I was raised, me and my siblings raised each other. My mom was a single parent who had to work multiple jobs. So like we had to kind of figure it out. And so there's almost, and it's, we're a little hyper independent. And so it's a little trash sometimes, but nonetheless, I think it's interesting around like the consequences of being as safe as possible. But what I love that you were talking around is like the possibility model is actually one that just tends to get frowned upon because it turns into like a classist thing and an elitist thing. Is like community should absolutely be at the core of like what is happening. Like my grandma lived 5 minutes up the street. Another one lived around the corner. My cousin lived across the street. Uncle RW lived around the corner on my way to school. That part is where the breakdown is happening, I think, a lot of the time.
No, it's not to be a contrarian, but I just find family is always discussed as though it's a good thing, like an automatic, like community. And I just find that no, like oftentimes, no, like what I hear, like I'm like, listen, I love that, like before when you think about home, like yes, this
is very biased and very personal. But go ahead.
Like, well, you gave that bias positive
agree, though.
Bahamian family. That was your positive interpretation of Bahamian community. I can't let this time. That don't line up with my lived experiences. What I hear is tossing my child around to a bunch of traumatic who's saying crazy things. That's what I'm listen. Nobody talks about how the things you be fucked up about for the rest of your days, for the rest of your life, be shit complexes your family instilled in you. I could think about, when I think about the different people in my family, all I'm hearing is Aunt Val calling people blackie and telling me all this pro-black stuff is a fake. Like, oh, I'm hearing my mommy, oh, you're shaped like a bullfrog, you're fat.
That's
this
mad.
one. Gee, yeah.
Very uncharitable, but go ahead. I guess I can remind us next time when I see Mr. Olurin inside the store. Go ahead.
I ain't even get him.
I'm about to tag his ass as well.
Listen, I just say all that to say, like, sometimes community, like, I'm a person who genuinely believes some of the worst things about life, like the worst things that people deal with, the worst things people think, the worst like systems that are enforced are just based on how we receive the world, what we think about the world. And a lot of that stuff, all the negative things that you carry with you for life happens in your childhood. It happens by being like someone who's not an autonomous being at the mercy of these adults who sometimes and many times, I think, at 32 years old, most people that I know have strained, tumultuous relationships with their families. And when they don't have them, according to them, I witnessed them, and it's usually a relationship where they lie about their entire existence. They just allow these people to bulldoze all of their boundaries and respect, and they are living a lie. So I say this to say, it's like, yes, theoretically, what family and community should be, what I consider like what I hope to, and CJ always points this out to me, because I live in, like I said, I live in fear being my parents. Like I have anxieties over that, because I think something we don't think about, or at least how I perceive it, is at 32 years old, like if I evaluate myself based on who I am as a partner to CJ, who I am as a friend, who I am as, as a sibling, who I am as a kid, I'm like, oh, I'm a good person. I feel good with that. Like I can evaluate myself as a good person. But if I have children and be a bad mother, the rubric, you're a bad parent, like that, you got to go down with that. I'm a bad person for the rest of my days. I'm dying as a bad person. And to like lose that evaluation, like I recognize as somebody who has parents who don't think that they're graded by their children, by their parenting, by their children, I recognize that I will be like, if my children think I'm a shitty mother, if they feel the kind of things that I feel emotionally when my parents get to going, then I fucked up, I failed. And that's a big thing I feel like I'm anxious about. And I think that when I try to think about, okay, like family and community and what that should look like, I think that's important. I think that is important. But I think sometimes in recognizing how important family and community is, it's important because it's very impactful. And it can go badly if you introduce the wrong family and community. So I feel like people have a tendency to think like, we're related. I've known you for a long time. Like we should be around being community. But sometimes some of them need to get the fuck from around your people, your children. And sometimes if everybody's like that, sometimes you're gonna have to isolate some children. My
You know exactly. That's why Tiffany Haddish and Jason Lee don't need to be around no kids. That's
That's a very good
This is why
segue.
my unpopular
Nice
opinion
segue.
is kind of pro it, because I actually think if they're friends, like forget how toxic we think we are, I don't know them people, but if they are best friends and they have a legitimate good friendship or whatever, and they both want kids, and they decided like, oh, I'd rather have a kid together, like as friends and raise them as besties than in whatever bullshit relationship, like Tiffany didn't want to deal with comments and nonsense. Like, let's. Well,
I mean, I don't. So I've actually had this
Exactly.
conversation. I've actually had this conversation with a friend of mine, and beautiful girl, love her down. And we've had a conversation about like, girl, if we get to a certain age and the things aren't thinking and the are still as they've been doing, right? As they've been doing, or let me say, if these men are still menning the way that they've been menning all this time, we may as well go ahead, meet me at the altar in your lavender dress. So that we can go ahead and make this work. Well, yes. And it was a key. But even in jest, here's what I'll say. Even in jest, I do understand that it is very difficult as queer people to have a family, particularly as Black queer people who want to have an entirely Black family unit. It is very, very difficult to do. I remember I had a conversation last year with Terrell and Jarius. I don't know if you guys are familiar with them and their content, but they are, I think, the most followed Black gay couple on TikTok, on Instagram. Like, they're huge.
Yeah.
But I mean, love them down. We had a conversation because last year they revealed their baby. And this is a bit of a detour from Tiffany Haddish and Jason Lee, who created the internet's messiest baby, allegedly. Actually, I shouldn't say that. It's just a baby. It's so cute. So that's not what I meant. It was a kid. Right. That is not their kid. Somebody did say that was not their kid.
So
can you all address that?
Attention?
I think that's important. So, like, is this a rage bait type of situation? Not to cut you off, Herbs.
No,
like,
cut me off.
Is this legit? Where's this baby from? Is it their baby? Is the
That's
baby
somebody.
adopted?
That's some other lady's
Did
baby.
they just bring someone else's
wanted-
baby?
they
And
just
if
wanted
that's
the
the
trans?
case,
You look Hispanic.
Well, I mean, no one is shocked that this is a rage bait situation. There are multiple people on the internet who have said that they saw that baby with some other woman, and like they went to her page, and there are multiple pictures of her and this baby. The baby's 6 months old, I believe, and it's some other Black lady's baby. The reason why
also why babies should just be offline. I mean, this is hot take. I mean, but like the fact that like we're doing like a whole FBI type investigation trying to figure out if this child is from them, who child this is. I mean, by damn.
I resent FBI investigation.
I mean, the FBI, I was going to say, the FBI has to graduate.
Everything, bro.
Like,
Right, yes.
But you know what I'm talking about.
No one backs anything up, and you're just like,
You're right. I'm just
you know what I'm
and also the
talking about.
FBI. If
There's
this
an
is FBI level investigation, they've got to step their pussy up because we definitely it took maybe all of 36 seconds to find that woman and her child. That's not their baby. So it's like, who is shocked that Jason Lee and Tiffany Haddish just did this for the sake of conflict?
Yes.
Can I ask a clarifying question? Who is Jason Lee?
Who are these? That's what you want to say. Who are these?
Jason Lee that owns Hollywood Unlocked. You don't know? Jason Lee is a messy, light-skinned man that owns Hollywood Unlocked.
There's a shade room.
Messy,
Is that like a
light-skinned
shade
gay man
room?
that used to be fat,
Okay.
now is slim, very shady, very controversial.
But that's why they're.
Why do we have to know he used to be fat?
No,
Because Jason would be the one.
He made it
a little bit.
Jason would be the main one. I'm giving you. That
He's
was
a former
Jason's
Fadi.
bio.
He's
That
a former
was a shady
Fadi type.
bio. I should have thrown in that he's a Leo. Maybe you'd have known I meant positive. Like,
Oh no, yeah, that's
absolutely.
not that's in their Wikipedia.
Let's relax.
Omar.
Wait,
that's a
Omar's a
choice.
Leo as well?
Yeah, he's a Leo.
Oh yeah, I know Olay.
I am a
know.
Leo.
But
I meant that positive.
Listen,
It's crazy. Like,
I
why is
know.
Leo such a negative thing? The minute you say it, and immediately assume it's
How much time do you have? How much time do you have?
Honestly, I would like to say that Virgos are a lot of the things that people claim Leos are.
We're gonna hold that.
Virgo
We're gonna hold
I'm
that.
an Aries and I don't know what that
I'm a Virgo
means.
rising.
Kenny.
Well,
Kenny.
Beyonce. I'm a Virgo rising as well. Oh my god.
Ryan,
Oh, wait, I'm a Virgo rising too.
Oh, look.
No, you're
my people. I'm a Virgo
Wait, I
sun,
thought-
Leo. Virgo sun, Leo moon, Virgo rising.
Well, first of all, Virgo sons. The saving grace for you all is Beyonce.
We have a
Yeah.
This
couple
is
people.
why.
Every
This is
stream
And we
talk
why.
don't
about
even know her
Beyonce.
personally. So
Let me tell you something, big body, Vince. Every time you see me, every time you see me, I'm gonna discuss Giselle.
No, man.
Every time.
That was you just had that on
Every
top.
time.
My
Hold on,
lord.
when's your birthday?
Always. I stay ready so I don't have to get ready.
That's the same album.
It's
Is
just
that
always.
vinyl?
Oh,
No,
wow,
that's
when was
not.
your
Omar,
birthday?
that is not the same album.
Let me stop. My birthday is the 19th, so I'm an
Yeah,
August.
no, it's
Leo.
two
Oh,
August.
August Leo. Okay, I just had my
August
birthday.
Leos have the bad connotation. You also got to explain who Tiffany Haddish is, because I don't think foreign or some people might know the depth of Tiffany Haddish.
Why you
Tiffany
throw me in
Haddish?
the box,
Y'all
boy?
know
Y'all
Tiffany
niggas
Haddish,
rough,
right?
boy.
Wait,
Haddish
I saw Girls
is
Trip.
Give her back.
actress / comedian who
No, you got to go
She's
into
popular for the Carmichael show. She's popular for
No, you got to
Making
go
a
She's
chicken
popular
butter
for
child.
the girl show. What's it? The girl strip show.
Girl
That's
the
like
Girls Trip.
her biggest claim to fame.
You got to go into the detail.
I
We
watched that.
just found out she was Jewish, and then you also got to talk about her and Ari Spears and their obsession with kids. That's the reason why this is like so crazy.
That is.
Y'all don't know about the Ari
Mm.
Spears thing?
Yes.
No.
I
The,
found out.
joke.
I don't know that one.
You missed
It's
Oh,
a
that
joke.
is the joke.
The
That is
skit.
joke
It's
thing.
a
Yeah,
full
the
skit,
okay.
Put
actually.
together a
Yeah,
series of skits with a child and depictions of them being. It was weird skits surrounding them and children being inappropriate.
And inappropriate.
Stickophilia.
Was it a sexually inappropriate context? That is
Yeah.
They
the
was
question.
zooming in on a 7-year-old ass crack.
There was a
Yeah, I'm about to say yeah.
Yeah.
Hold
And
on.
that
Let
was
me
the-
do this one
the
right here.
Stickophilia.
Hold on.
Yeah.
If I
That's
remember
why-
correctly, like the joke or the skit was that they were pedophiles.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
How is that? Rod, y'all,
I don't know how
y'all
it is,
need,
but
y'all
that
doing
was-
it differently.
PDF file.
A
I don't know who
PDF
y'all
file.
is.
I mean, Rod, when I say that, right? I mean, how they
I
just
know.
walking around, just out here talking about they have a
So-
child in the short. Now, her and Jason Lee have a child in the short. If I know that this online and I see that have a child right there, I don't like CPS, but someone got to get called. Call Sal, call Ja Rule, call someone. Because I mean, like, how the Rod,
Ja Rule
someone
get
got to
it.
get called. Because ain't no way that you letting this both of them as a union in front of a child. That's just me.
Hey, Jason ain't doing that. Well, in fairness
No,
to
it's not
Jason, he didn't
Jason.
die. It was Aries Spears.
Jason
that's the
owned
community.
Hollywood and
Aries
Love, so that's
Aries
enough.
Spears, the one I hate when celebrities ruin
So
their
that's
like good
enough.
reputation, because Aries Spears spent most of his career well known for doing really great impersonations, and I know one had nothing negative to say to him. Then he had to come out and do this shit with Tiffany. Then it was the comments about Lizzo, and now you're hated. No one even cares.
I was gonna say,
Yeah,
it was the Lizzo comments for me too.
That's
Well,
that's the community.
I
There.
can
That's why
guess,
it's
but what were
important.
the
'Cause
Lizzo-
Was it
that's the
fatphobic?
uncle that
He said Lizzo looked like the shit emoji. Mind you, if you see Aries Spears.
You about to say something, Monty?
When
Please
you
stop.
said
Mind you, if you see Aries Spears. Stop.
You have an uncle probably that look
Full
like Harry
stop.
Spears.
No, I do not. No, I do not.
The immediate
No, I
response.
do not.
This comes moments. This comes moments after reading her family. But what you won't do,
But you would not say
this,
my family
this
look like
is
Harry
where
Spears.
she draws the line.
will not.
This is where she draws the line.
I love my family. I'm just
Period.
aware that, like, listen,
People be toxic.
listen.
She said,
Y'all ain't never had family. Just 5 minutes into being with them, you're like, oh, I will. This is actually, I can feel my mental health leaving me.
And first of all, I actually am a
Immediately.
big proponent. I mean, the gays be saying that chosen family, that's the
Gays?
philosophy of a lot of the gays, right?
What?
The
is
kids, TM,
Yeah,
like you could just say that.
right. Well,
Yes.
well, I could just say that. Big
Okay.
body baby. I don't know why you're echoing me, but I certainly can just say that.
It's back
So
and forth.
the
We've
gays-
been having it so much. I just want to say
Wait,
it.
no. Much love, Mr. Foreign. I personally feel, the gays have always talked about the alphabet mafia. Has always professed this idea of like chosen family, and that like as an alternative, because a lot of queer people, irrespective of race, but certainly I can speak to the Black community that I grew up in, grew up in very harmful environments on the basis of like, Black people that are in my family, I'll speak to my experience, just being homophobic, but also just not being the kind of people that I just want to kick it with, right?
Yeah.
And I just feel like, oh, you're just not a person that I like. I just don't like what you give to some of my family members. So when I do hear people kind of like glamorizing or angelifying the family unit, I'm like, honestly, and then also this is what like Foreign said, and this is actually me just responding. This is not, this is
You
not
about to
me.
get on my case again?
No,
Get on my
hands
case
up.
again, bro.
Don't shoot. I'm unarmed. No, so what I was gonna say when you were saying like I feel like for having a maximum of 4 kids outside of one home, right, is like the max that a person can do. But I'm skeptical of whether or not a lot of fathers can be good parents to the children they have under one roof, because what is the criteria for being a good dad other than being a provider and a protector? I'll weigh. Like my father, I always say my mother raised me for all of her shortcomings and my father parented me. And there's a very big difference. And for a long time, I never felt like I loved my dad. I felt an obligatory obligation to have a care and respect. What was most important, I think, to my dad and to a lot of fathers is that there's a respect there that they receive as love, that there is like a kind of like a fear, respect, reverence that they receive as love.
Like you are my responsibility. I'm not supposed to like you.
You
Right,
are
and
one of your friends.
That's how a lot of well, you should be to an extent, right? I should feel not friends, but I should feel like I like my parents. But that said, sometimes family sucks. That was the point that I wanted to make with Tad. But I also wanted to circle it back to Tiffany Haddish and the messy baby comment that I made, because I should have never said about that baby. That baby is innocent. That is not even them people baby for the most part. And I actually did not like that a lot of the internet was saying that baby was going to be messy. That's a baby. The baby don't have no decisions. With that being said, or hasn't made any decisions yet other than, poop, piss, eat. But beyond that, I do feel like, damn, what was I going to say? Oh, the reason why it would be messy if they had kids. No, my points are all over the place. There's no way to follow them. So if you try to reel me back in, it's like, girl, I've moved on. What I was going to say, the reason why it is a big deal is because Tiffany Haddish did have a scandal involving inappropriate activity with a child. And so people are questioning her ability to be a good mother. And then also with Jason Lee, just being the person that he has been with the politics. For me, it's not that he's messy. I'm hesitant to say that about most of the gays TM. I'm hesitant, but with Jason Lee, I do feel like, do your own research.
Actually messy.
I mean, yes.
Yes.
You got me. Hands up, you got me. You got me red-handed. He is messy, but being messy doesn't mean you can't be a good dad. I just personally feel like I was interested in having a conversation about like kind of like some of the concerns that maybe queer people, because I do feel like there's a parallel between kind of like the difficulty that single women of a certain age have around their fear about not being able to have children and the fear for a lot of Black or queer folks in general around the social, legal, and economic difficulties and concerns around not being able to have children. There's like parallels there to where this made sense if they were to have kids given their age and all things considered.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, it would have made sense to me.
Yeah, and Herbie, you're actually putting on a really good point, if I'm going to be honest. Like my homie Ray, shout out to Ray. He's actually a single Black gay father, raising a child right now.
Single mom.
No, quite literally. But I think it's actually interesting because in the adoption process, he actually had to wait 2 years. They had to go through every ring, cross everything. He had to have a certain amount of money. He had to do this, X, Y, and Z, make sure his background was pure, everything possible. So, but it's also interesting because there are actual legal things that was preventing Black gay men or queer folks in general being able to like adopt children at large. And so I think it's actually is an interesting conversation, and tying it even back to like some of the anxieties he was having. Like he's 43 now. Yeah, I love my friend. 43.
Damn.
Not too much on my friend, but
I thought that was wholesome. That was a wholesome.
Right. No, thank you. It was the damn from that one.
That damn did come through clearly too. I ain't gonna lie.
But even in his idea of parenting, he's actually doing the thing where, like, chosen family actually does exist. Like the godparents do have the child on like Tuesdays and Thursdays and all this other stuff. So the structure that he has fundamentally is actually a very beautiful structure, but also the idea of like some people's politic can extend to how you decide that you want to treat friends you actually give a fuck about. And if you think around it in that way, when we're thinking around choosing family, how you treat your best friends is probably how you should be able to like see this kind of community formulate around, because there's an assumption at least, the 5 people closest to you is how a representation of who you are or whatever. But like if we really take our politic and really think around like how do me and I even say my friends, like how do we engage in mutual aid? Like we see Ray's son and we're like, cool, make sure he is taken care of. Cool. We all like donate a little bit of money to a potential scholarship fund, and when he turns 18 that he can get access to. And again, that's also like a class thing that could happen.
Have their own kids?
Huh?
How many of y'all have your own kids too? Because I think that
Four
plays into how much people are willing to contribute. Like if your friend has a kid and you ain't got no kids and whatever kids different.
It's fine. I have kids, yeah. Yes, and so I think it's also because I also like named the fact like there's also a significant class difference as well with some of them as well, and so they're out of 4 of like the 15 people in his village plus some, they are the ones who are like having kids and whatnot, or who have kids right now, and so I think it's like an interesting makeup though, because even as me and all of my friends are turning 30 this year, we're all like, hey, in 5 years we're all not. Herbie, I swear to God, you're about to be uninvited from the birthday.
How old you turn in?
I couldn't even see it.
Huh?
How old you turn in?
I turned 30 in September.
Oh, okay. You just not turning 30.
Right. Young hot ebony.
Young hot ebony is wild. You can't talk about me talking about things when you saying things like young hot ebony with no context.
Sorry, please.
That was in a platonic. That was a platonic delivery. That was a platonic observation.
Because they're old.
Well,
y'all got my head swinging blood.
Trying. But if you extend your politic to how you are also treating your friends, me and my friends think around all the time. In the next 5 years, me and my boys talk around all the time of like, we want to be able to have kids within the next 5 years. And like, what does that mean for our kids to essentially like grow up with each other and be each other's like play cousins and stuff like that? Because you still have that kind of community. But if we are all able to raise family, sons and daughters, or whoever our children choose to be, like that to me was like a very interesting conversation on even like kind of almost like game planning, like in the future, like how close do we want to be in terms of like living near each other, and what's proximity look like, and how often are our kids going to be able to like hang out with each other and making like intentional time. And again, real life can happen, and so ideally this is not ideal, but could it begin to provide a framework on what, like if we were to like build a framework around chosen family and actually like enact it amongst and like almost like wash, rinse, repeat for other people outside of like the queer community, I think it would actually be a really good way to start reimagining these pockets of community rather than try to follow this like ideal that happened when the 60s were happening and women couldn't work. I think we have to just start fundamentally restructuring
my kids aren't
shit.
Gonna like my friends' kids.
What do you mean?
Why would you say that?
My kids is gonna have a smart ass mouth.
I would love for I try not to speculate.
No. I didn't say no. You misheard me, friend. I said I don't want them. I want them to love them. I just imagine having a difficult baby child who say, I know these people run. Why you keep bringing me around them?
That is a line specific.
That's how me and my sisters just give it up. Like we're very uninterested. Like I could see I'm a reasonable person. I'm not one of those people who be like, you know when you hear. I remember one time on the Roy and Mal podcast when Damaris was like, oh, she believed her and another loud gonna have a quiet kid. I was like, that's not how life works. That's not how DNA work. Like. I'm expecting for a child to be similar to me. And CJ, right. I'm like, oh, we're going to have a kid. The child will most likely be like us. I have a penchant for not being on run. I have a tendency to be anti-social. Like, that don't have nothing to do with me. People start talking to me, I'd be like, how can CJ start telling me about extended family? I'd be like, how closely related these people is to us? How much we like, what's how much I got to buy into this?
Oh my God!
I'm a bitch.
Wait, I did.
Oh, Herbie.
Go ahead, Herbie.
No, Omar, you go ahead.
Bro, Herbie, dog.
I like that. Foreign and Omar got two different type energies going right now.
This is wild. This
Olay,
man
Olay.
got.
Omar,
Sorry.
your mic is low. It's been low this whole episode.
Has it been low this whole episode? That
Yes.
doesn't help. I just, as I adjust it, this is the assumption that like a chosen family is supposed to be better than your actual family as well. Because to be honest with you, chosen
That's
family
right.
got issues too. Friends got issues. You just put up with it because you was in the bathroom throwing up with this friend, or you went on a 2-man with the friend, or whatever the case may be. I'm sure y'all friends, y'all don't got ain't shit friends.
Very many.
At 32 years old, I retired them.
What do
Yeah.
you mean?
Oh,
I'ma
you
be
ain't
honest.
yo. If you, I do at Clear House. I'm very much so. Oh, you've offended
It's
me for the
strict.
last time.
It's a strict ship over there,
It's
but you know,
a-
Right.
You
It's
friend,
strict over
friend,
here.
why you acting like you don't know how I go?
Right. But
I
Omar,
just sent you
I
a
know.
dissertation I sent to our friend the other day saying I don't with you. You know how I go.
why are you telling people this? Like,
right.
Ain't nobody
Right.
know what we talking about. We are from a whole island together.
look, and to shift it, like also because that reminded me to Omar's point. In defense of Alani, because like I be thinking about it too, and I think this also extends to my queer folk them, where so far as like I am in a position because I am, you know, I fit the patriarchal shuffle very much. I might have a very progressive politique, but when I walk out this door, I get clocked as very much traditional. Like you get me. Like I mean, as a married man, I provide, protect, I breed. You know, I don't have picnic, I don't have children. You know, and waiting on me to have another. Like I could push them out. You know, but like ultimately, amongst my cousins, everybody is looking at me. Oh, Foreign! I'm so happy you here. Where the child? Everybody happy to see Foreign. Ain't nobody happy to see my cousins them that they ain't breed yet. You know, ain't nobody happy to see, especially the women them. And I feel for them because I'd be like, raw. Anytime when my aunties and them come through, like there's just like, oh, you see Foreign, he got his child, he taking his child out the prom and thing like that. I wish I was a grand something. Anyway, I guess someday. And you know, I thought about that when Alimi was talking. And like there's nothing that a woman would be more congratulated for. They could have this, like my cousin have degrees, more degrees than me, like got a life far more together than mine. But until she push out children, she don't get no ratings
That shit
inside her
don't count.
household. She can't do nothing until she get married, and then she push out a child.
You ain't know
She
the
just
best thing
said-
a woman can do is have a child and be a wife?
Wait, Foreign, you
And
just
that,
wait,
I think
wait,
that
really
goes
quick.
back to the queer folk thing. You could get on my ass in a second, man, Herbie. Let me just say, I ain't
I
trying
just
to bring
wanna
up the queer folk them.
No,
'cause
I just
know
want to
you
know.
about the tip.
Do you just no? It's just a quick question. You just
You
casually use the word breed like that, like just casually. You just
So,
just
alright.
casually
All
like
right,
that.
so
You know
all
that
right.
song can
This
breed
is
me?
cultural
You
sensitivity.
know that song can breed me? That's how we say it.
That's
Hey!
okay. I'm specifically. I understand the sensitivity to the word, but like legit, like there's a song that is viral in the Bahamas and the rest of the Caribbean saying "Come breed me," breeding anthems. It's a thing.
That's
Raw.
how
I
we-
understand how it go, how it moving over there, but understand that like they have our language is our first prison over here. Okay.
Don't
Okay.
you hate how politics have ruined kink, man? No, can't nobody be into
You're
breeding
like
that,
anymore.
wait,
Come
they-
breed
on.
me as
they
breed
can't
me as a
breed
political
me.
position.
Oh,
Breed me as
Raw.
a political position. Wait,
The like,
I'm mad I just said that
the force,
I was making some
because
sense.
of clip culture.
I was making some sense, and Herbie come fixated, hyper fixated on breed. So now we're talking about breeding.
Well, for you said it four times.
Four times, but also for the gays, it might look a little different when you say it.
I understand. I always in the queer folk business, them, so I know how the thing go. I know about bottom politics and all of that. We could get into that if you want to, but we only got 15 more minutes. If y'all
Hold
really
on,
want to
let
talk
me-
about these things,
let
because
me
it
just
seems like
do
that's what
this.
y'all came to
Hold
talk
on.
about today. Like, this Black Street will ever kill me. Raw. But like I was saying, from a queer folk them, right? Like, I understand, like, there might also be, like, some trauma levied towards by family members, especially, like, coming out as queer, because, like, it ain't only about everything that comes with being queer, but specifically for a parent, it's thinking, well, damn, I ain't gonna have no kids. Like that idea. And I think that gets reinforced too. So I think that like there's
I ain't got no grandkids.
Exactly. Like that is, and also like you have
my
like,
parents don't give a about grandkids. Mother's sick.
That's very interesting knowing that they live in the Bahamas, you know.
You have to understand. My parents, like my house is like a special cocktail of misogyny in this weird way, right? And like you have to understand, like my house special.
Your house right down the road for me. I could pay a visit one of these times for real.
And I promise you would never hear my parents talk about when Alani or when us have any kids. You would sit with my daddy. He'd never mention no grandchildren. He have a few. We wouldn't hear nothing about them. Nothing about my parents.
Mr. Olurin, such a respectable man. I stand by him in a bank one time. I swear this man was talking so respectively, and he have like a very distinguished, nice belly. Like I mean, like you know, like that, like a very distinguished belly. I want one of them. Like it is just lap over just well enough by the belt. Yes. I want no ass. I want like that at some point, but I have all kind of ass.
I love my daddy. My daddy's so like my daddy likable whenever he feel like being likable. Like we'll be dead good. I feel like my relationship with my parents is like sobriety. Like I telling you, like I'm gonna fall off the wagon. Like we only have about this much time. Like I have an 8-month shit. We cool, and we're done again. Like it's always. I promise
you just recently hit your 8 months. That's what you're telling me.
Me and my daddy. I mean, y'all see there's a gap up there, right?
Yeah.
Man.
Okay. Let me fill y'all in on me.
You took him down?
You ain't got time to play with my daddy? Listen to this, man. Listen.
Oh my God.
You can't please my parents. You cannot please them. I go and I get these portraits made, right? That's my Grammy. That's my Grammy. And that CJ's pop up and CJ's grandmama, right?
I know. I thought that was Eric Adams up there.
Portrait of my daddy over there. Nice ass portrait I love. I call my daddy. Dead excited to show my daddy. Daddy, look at this. My daddy. No, that is a horrible photo. Why not? What you mean? Like, oh, what you mean? That's how I say it. So he ran, and I ain't even get upset. Like this morning, I ain't even get upset. He ran on his home. No, that's a horrible photo. I was like, what you mean, daddy? I love this. What you mean? I get this made. It's so nice. Blah, 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 blah. That's on the wall. My daddy, send me some other photos and I will pick one I like. I will pay for it. Daddy, I already paid for it. I say, okay. I say, you know what? I say, okay, daddy. Okay, I ain't got to run over. Okay, hang up the phone. I hang my picture and I go on with my business. My daddy live in the Bahamas. He don't come to my house. Later, out of the blue, unprovoked, my daddy sends me two pictures. Y'all
not portraits.
I need to make y'all understand the trauma. My daddy, if you go in my house right now in the Bahamas, there is no proof I exist. No proof. None of the children.
Allow me no man.
My daddy would not put us a picture us on that wall to save his life.
Allow me don't say things like that, man. Why you do?
You think he's lying? At one time in 2014,
I'm sorry.
2014, I come home, drive, pick up all my sisters, and go around the island gathering bitches. Come, we going to go take a family photo. We gonna do a family photo shoot. I go get all the photos developed. Big picture, go give it to my daddy frame. He returned the pictures to me.
Fuck.
I say, no, daddy, this for the wall. He put it in his filing cabinet. I say, no, daddy, this for the wall.
No, man, not that nice, man. I stand behind the back.
No, Foreign, you are the friend that be when we tell you how ancient our parents be, you be like, I never saw that side. Shut up.
My daddy tell me, like, he treat me nice.
This was 2014. You don't know my daddy's carry on. My daddy don't let nobody have no say in that house. One time, my daddy and my mommy was fighting one full day because my mommy tried to put one teapot set in the kitchen, and my daddy keep coming back around. This him looking at the teapot set every time he walk in and out. By the time you look, he comes like get a step ladder because you know my daddy's short. He get the step ladder to go put the teapot set away, and that's him. Oh, you see, this is the problem. This is it. This is what y'all do not understand nice things. This is a peasant's teapot set. Look at this. What this for? $3, and you come up with this in a nice kitchen. And my daddy will spin that. You wanted to have a teapot set in the kitchen will be spinned into a fundamental lack of respect. Because this, I am an architect. I have taste. I know design.
I'm an architect.
Mind you, this
into
mind you,
a
this sound
comfort.
just like a limey, but anyway, keep on going.
Listen,
The low vibrational teapot is really a mother
So you
issue.
understand, and I need you to understand the kind of tyrannical force dealing with in the Olurin family
Tyrannical.
home. So in 2014, I said, give him these pictures.
Mm-mm.
Oh, he returns them back to me, and he says to me, when you have your own home, you can put them on your wall.
That's rough.
Yep. Right? That's
rough.
2014. So now here we are, 11 years later. I go get I've never been on the wall in my home in my whole life. Nobody. I get a portrait made and put on the wall.
I'm all over this bitch.
Horrible photo. Cool. Oh, no problem. Whatever. Let it up. 2 weeks later, he texts me 2 pictures of him that look like selfies where his face screw up where he can't see in the sun. Talking about, oh, pick one of these. This is more so what I look like on a day-to-day basis. One of the pictures he sent me is a picture he crop me out of.
Not crop you out of the picture.
Listen, y'all don't understand the
Girl.
disrespect. So I was like, Daddy, how could you figure these photos look better than this nice portrait of you? He could say to me, the picture of him in a suit and a scarf and circular spectacles. He could say, I look like an ex-convict in that photo.
By far.
I say, Daddy. I say, Daddy. I said, I'm a whole lot, okay, like, all right, Daddy. I understand. Like, let's you starting to get on my nerves now, Daddy. Like,
Yeah,
like,
girl.
you remember
It's a
when you
child.
told me I must do what I want when I was like, okay, Daddy. I was like, at the end of the day, I was like, I did it, Daddy. I was like, I was trying to honor the elders in what I was supposed to be. That I thought you would like it. I'm disappointed that you ain't like it, but otherwise, it's for me. It's my house. I like it. Me and CJ like it. It's our house. My daddy. How can you honor somebody with something they do not like?
Wrong.
Use one. He don't text me back. I need to delete this WhatsApp off my phone. So I say all that to say, sometimes.
A whole closing case, bro.
Wait, hold on. I did want to wait, let me just say this one little thing because I brought this up and I feel like it was such an incomplete thought and I feel like I just can't not finish it.
Yeah.
First of all, shout out to your dad. Shout out to your father.
I can't
because
believe this.
the most beautiful thing that can come from trauma is being able to comedicize that and bring joy to other people from the trauma that you've experienced. Is what I find. And so sorry that you had to experience what you've experienced with your father genuinely. From one comedic traumatic
obviously
bitch
threw the photo
to the
away.
next.
That's obviously what happened. I'm sorry. I forgot to finish.
I'm getting my lick back.
How can you honor me with something I don't like? Resulted in garbage. All right, don't say that anymore.
No, okay. This is what I wanted to say about the idea of having kids because my mom has said this to me. My mom actually ritualistically says like, when are one of y'all gonna have my grandkids, right?
How many siblings you have?
There are 4 of us in total.
Oh, 50. Like?
There's a lot of everybody gay though. And
all of them?
Really?
All of them?
Everybody gay. No, well, I'm gay. My brother's gay. My younger sister just found Christ, so she is whatever she identifies as this month. Well, that's not a part of deliverance in that manner. Is not a part of my worldview. I don't even see it. So, but I also respect you identify as whatever you identify as. And my sister goes whichever way she is treated with respect and dignity. And so she doesn't identify as anything. She's not a part of the Alphabet Mafia, but she does Alphabet Mafia things. Neither here nor there. Everybody a little queer. That said, she don't got no grandkids. And so they always, my father, who obviously is, we're gonna bring it back to the legacy gag. My father, who's very big on like, I named you Herbie Jr., you should be having Herbie Jr., my firstborn son, right? And I'm like, well, one, I have a lot of, I share a lot with what you said, Olay, about like having a fear around being a bad parent. One, because I'm gender nonconformant. So it's like, I for damn sure am not going to be anybody's nurturing mother, but I'm also not going to be your protecting father. So here we are just looking at each other like 2 big Barneys, not knowing what to do. And so
be the boys?
Who's gonna be the, if everybody want to be the girls, listen, and this is why I'm going to go ahead and be my nothingness all alone. But I don't know, maybe I'll have a kid one day. But that said, I had this conversation. Hold on, just follow me. The reason why I brought this up and the reason why when I saw this Jason Lee story, I was like, even though it is a fallacy, allegedly, I was like, oh, that when I had this conversation with my female friend about our lavender marriage and having kids and walking away into the sunset, I made sure that I had it with a dark-skinned woman because I want to have dark-skinned kids because my parents, despite my father being a dark-skinned man and my mom being a brown-skinned, dark-skinned woman, and well, whatever she identifies as, she is brown-skinned, but neither here nor there. It was a very colorless household, and I'm the darkest person in my family. I've said this 1,000 times. And so I want to be able to give that dark-skinned baby the love that I didn't receive, right? As like, that's like a part of what I want to do with a dark-skinned partner, be it my lavender wife or my dark-skinned husband, in Jesus' name. Who knows what will happen though, right? But after, I remember last year, Terrell and Jarius, this big queer black gay couple, introduced their baby to the world, and their baby was white presenting. And so it sparked this whole big debate about how so often black gay folks, black gay men, have lighter skinned or white presenting babies because a lot of people feel like they don't find black women desirable, they don't find blackness desirable, they don't or like when they assert that they should have black women surrogates, people are like, don't you know about the black women, like how the maternity rate, or what is the word I'm looking for?
Maternal health crisis.
Maternal mortality.
Yeah.
Maternal mortality. Thank you. Rates. And so there's like there's two sides of the conversation that were happening. And I had this conversation with them, and I wanted to have this here today as someone who wanted to have not just a black family and wanted to, even though I hate this idea of legacy, my child's name is not going to be Herbie. But I did have an attachment to this idea of having a child that is attached to the DNA of me, my father, right? And continue on that lineage because it's something that was beat into me as a kid of like, I want my grandkids to be mine. I don't want them to be adopted. That's somebody else's kid. That's how they feel, right?
Yeah.
But when I was listening to them speak, one, what a lot of gay people don't know is that there's a difference between traditional surrogacy and gestational surrogacy, which is like traditional surrogacy is essentially like you can use a turkey baster. You and a woman that you know decide to have a baby together. You inseminate that woman, if that's the correct term, and now she's carrying a baby with her egg. Y'all create an embryo and y'all hope for the best. Gestational is essentially where somebody else, a third party, provides you with an egg, and then the woman, the person who's carrying the baby,
you get a black lady's egg and put it in the white lady.
Well, possibly. But the thing is,
the black woman isn't having to go through the childbirth and die, is what we're saying.
But the percentage of black women surrogates is less than 2%. And so when you're talking about the availability, first of all, if you're going to do gestational surrogacy, that's $20,000 to $25,000, maybe $30,000 more than traditional surrogacy, right? These people are now part of your insurance. You have to pay for the lawyers. You have to pay for, everything that goes into the medical care to bring this child in. And if you do traditional surrogacy with you and your homegirl, like what I just said with my dark-skinned female friend, and we wanted to have our lavender marriage walking up into the sunset, if we decided to do that, in many states in the U.S., she has a right to that baby and it has to be signed away after birth. And so a lot of women decide, you know what, I've been carrying this baby all this time. I want this baby to be mine. And that's respectable, right? So these are all the things you have to consider. If less than 2% of the available surrogates to black gay people are black women, then you have to find someone who is biologically compatible. Like for me, I know diabetes runs in my family. If this black woman who also may have diabetes run in her family, I don't want my kid to have diabetes. It's an increased chance, right? You have to find someone who you like and they like you. Black people are how many more times to be religious and like spiritually conservative? We're the most likely demographic to go to church, most likely say that we subscribe to a specific religion. And a lot of times religious folks do not want to procreate with a gay couple, period. So it's like, I wanted to insert that, and I talked about this in a video that I did on my main channel, an extensive video that I did on my main channel called, what's it called? Representation Matters Too Much in Gay Dating. It was largely about like the history of homophobia from Africa to like pre-colonialized Africa through now and how we get to this space. But it also was about the family unit and this interview that I had with Terrell and Joris. I just wanted to insert that because I did see certain people in the comments saying, well, at least they had a black baby. And I know for me, I'm having to unlearn after being faced with the facts that like it could cost you $150,000 to find this, to find a black woman who is willing to have your baby. And there is no guarantee that that woman will carry that baby to term.
Nope.
And so I just wanted to insert that because I think that's important. For one kid.
Yeah.
Like, girl, I'm just gonna get my baby from somewhere, some traumatized part of the world. Yeah, I want to rescue my little black baby somewhere in sub-Saharan Africa.
It's interesting because even on the flip side, some of my lesbian homies, they wanted to specifically to have Black children. But even on them, less than 3% of sperm donors are Black men in America. And so even in that conversation, it's a very difficult space to even think around. Like, if you want to intentionally be like, no, I want a Black family, you have to travel far and wide to actually find like a Black sperm donor and people who are willing to like give up the rights to, well, not even give up the rights because there's just a sperm donor, but like willing to also engage in that process. That's the best way I can place that. But I thought it was interesting because even hearing on the flip side from what you were saying, Herbie, is now from like even lesbian couples are also experiencing a very similar phenomenon, because now it's a lot more difficult to even search for Black sperm donors, and even like the legalities behind becoming a sperm donor as well. I thought was like super fascinating.
Can't
Yeah,
help
and
but
it's
think that
also
that's
like-
by design,
sorry.
by the way. No, it's a short
no,
point. I think that that's
agree.
all by design. I think that there's an incentive to engender, very eugenicsy coded, particular children
to the genes.
roaming the world. Go
You
ahead.
think it's less sperm banks than there are blood banks?
Huh?
I'm saying, do you think it's less sperm banks than there are blood banks? Because there's a lot of I'm thinking about it in my head why this might exist. I see oftentimes in different areas that they're like, oh, come and donate your blood plasma, come draw blood, but not for sperm.
Unless
So
you're gay.
Well,
Oh yeah, gay people can't do that.
well,
Or by
Y'all can't donate
or
blood.
a man who has sex with men. No.
what's she going to the gut?
Has
It's an
anyone
assumption all gay
seen-
people have AIDS.
What you mean y'all can't donate blood?
No,
They don't
They
want-
told me- I found that out in high school when Red Cross came to my school. It was a Catholic school, so they made it abundantly clear. Whoa, punk, slow down. We don't need that blood from you. It's okay. I'm like, girl, I think I'm O negative or O positive. Whatever. My blood type is a type that like pretty much everybody under all blood types can receive blood from me.
And they said no.
Well, yes, because I'm a.
No, I'm just
Well-
I'm blown away.
Well, it's because I've blown many men away, and so that is why they have told me directly to my face it's not going to work for them. And you know what? I can respect that. But I did want to also say that I feel like when it comes to it's also like a lot of people are like, oh, you have the money, you should be able to do it. But it's like, do you have the time to do it? Right? Like there are so many different evaluations and like legalese. Like it could take 1 to 3 years to just find a surrogate to have a kid with. And so it's like, if you want, especially as you get up in age, if it took you a while, as Black people, first of all, the largest indicator that you will die impoverished is if you were born in poverty, right? So if you're the kind of person who has been able to work your way out of, to get to a socioeconomic stance where you could afford to have, to do that research, to find a needle in a haystack, ostensibly, you have to have the time. You have to have, some people are like, I don't want to be 45 changing Pampers. I don't want to be 55 changing Pampers. I want to have, like, if it took me 37 years to get to a space where I can afford $50,000 on a child, on the possibility of having a child, I don't want to have to wait another 5 years to find that Black woman surrogate that may beget a child. So it's like, I just felt like especially with, the corners of the internet that we're in and where this is going to go, I know that's always in the conversation about Black gay men starting a family. Is like, why is your baby light skin or white passing? Why couldn't you just have a brown or Black baby?
Or adopt.
Or adopt. And it's like, also some people are really tied to the idea of like having.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, but when I've actually seen, because when Herbie was saying that, I was just like, Raw, I'm so happy that you're talking about this because I can't talk about this shit. But I'd be like, Raw, so like these as dark as the days are long, and there's a white baby. So I just be like, Raw, I just be trying to figure out like personally, I just be trying to, and I can't ask that question because it ain't a safe space. Frustrates them. So I say, all right, then that's fine. But
are you a men's activist?
No, man, stop that shit.
Don't you do my boy like that?
So they clip that shit. You all have me like, go on.
Right.
With a
cornbread too.
Yeah, no, man. Don't have me like that. You all know.
Hold on. Let me just do this.
More like that, am I in it?
Cut that shit, Aaron. I know you hearing me. Cut that, please. Anyway,
Cut that. It's crazy.
I can't have I cannot have black trans Twitter on me. I can't have that. I already have white trans Twitter on me. But no, for real, I be wanting to understand that because, you know, there's even like a realm of this where you could even ask the question, why is it that the pro-black people them always is in the popping white partners? You get me? Like, even we, us pro-black, is fall for the same desirability of
Who's
whiteness.
we?
And I agree who's we.
You
Because
speak-
they be,
you speak
not
French?
me. My girl, no, hold on.
I
Okay,
don't
don't
think-
mix me up. Don't mix me up. My girl is my wife is unambiguously black. But the fact of the matter is, there is something to be reckoned with how we are all victims of the same. And it is absolutely indiscriminate. It does not matter whomever. It desires all. So by virtue of being black, you could still fall for anti-blackness.
Well, I think that when it comes to adoption, in particular, there is more autonomy there. We know that Black kids spend disproportionately more time in the foster care system, in the adoption system, and that's because of the systemic biases and racism, right? People just don't want to adopt Black kids. So I do think that there's more of an... I personally have grown out of this idea that I want my kid to be connected to my DNA, and it's tied to this idea of, if you take nothing away, Herbie hates the idea of legacy passed down to a kid. And so it's because I'm like, what makes my genes so superior that my kid has to be attached to me? I recognize that nurture is more important to me in terms of as opposed to nature, in terms of creating a good human being. Like, I'm just really interested in creating a good human being with good politics that is loved on, and hopefully they're Black. Which is why I've leaned more into the idea of adoption, because I do feel like you have more of an option there. I don't know why these homosexuals are choosing, these racially ambiguous
these
babies.
things because you can't say Ross. How you making this plural blood? Like,
I think it's to be said also about just how expensive it is to have a kid, regardless of how you have it, right? Because like if you have them naturally, if you have them surrogate, if you have them some person you know, and you get a turkey baster and they pop out, you still got to take care of them. But like currently I'm looking into getting my eggs frozen because I don't know when I would actually like to start a family. But I figured it's very expensive, and most insurance, at least in this area, doesn't cover it. So it's definitely a luxury to do. So like, even thinking about that, there's so many like hindrances to having a kid, even if you want to. So like, in a way, I could see it also like hurting someone's ego or hurting someone emotionally when they see people who they perceive as just having kids and not giving a fuck about them. Because there is so much work that can go into having that kid for people that give a fuck about them. Like people, like also I feel like going back to like the passing on of the legacy, I think a lot of people don't have kids to be of service to kids. Again, I don't think they think of them as people. They don't think, so it like frustrates them to have to do the things that are necessary to raise a child. Because instead the kid was meant to appease or assuage something within them, and now they're frustrated that kid isn't living up to this expectation, which is not their fault. You had a kid to fill a wound or whatever. Why are you not having a kid to raise a kid? Yeah.
So it's actually
Cute.
It's interesting because at work, some of the critique I get is like, and it's not real critique because I let it go in one ear at the other because I'm just like, that's a y'all problem. But like, they don't like the ways in which I engage in discipline. But because of when they see a child acting out, it's an immediate like, well, Marquise, as the only man in here, I feel like you need to be a lot more assertive with the kids and be a lot more punitive. But I was like, that's the assumption of any Black man who gets into education. You assume we're the dean, or we have to be security, or we're in a space of disciplinary. And I actively reject that stance because I believe in restorative justice and practices, especially when it comes to kids, right? And so I'm just like, and they don't like gentle parenting, all of that good stuff. And so I think it's like very interesting because for me, my philosophy is playing the long game when it comes to kids. And so I will sit there and be like, hey, I know you're acting out right now, but like, what do you need in this moment? Did I do something that bothered you? Do you need a walk in this moment? Do you need water? Did you eat? Like, what is causing this outburst and just asking the kid why. And sometimes kids don't have the emotional vocabulary all the time to express, and that's our job as adults, in my opinion, is to actually like read their subtext or understand their subtext in order of what they're trying to achieve. I can tell when a kid is consistently leaving class, they're either bored, or if they are coming to me when they are frustrated without saying anything, they're most likely trying to articulate like, you are my safe space, but I don't know how to say that thing yet. So it's interesting hearing it from my coworkers that they're like, well, I think you just need to be a little bit tougher on them. And especially like when it comes to the Black boys, like the rest of the world's not going to treat them as such. And I said, love is an equal affirmation and accountability. And so whatever your idea of discipline and thinking about raising a Black child in this world, when they are in my space, like I don't call any of my boys like young men. I refuse to call them men in like any space that I'm at, because I'm like, boys are allowed to make mistakes. Men don't always have that luxury of making mistakes, particularly Black men don't have that luxury. So if they're in a space where you can make a mistake and grow from that, that's going to be my consistent philosophy. So oftentimes, which like Kenny, which your point raised for me is like, we want kids to be subservient to us. We want to be able to enact this sense of control over a child, because in reality, we think a child must stay in a child's place. And so I know what is best. But oftentimes what I had to do when I enter spaces as a teacher is practice cultural humility. I cannot assume because we are all Black on this call that we are all experiencing the same world as Black people. So I have to assume, yes, there might be a shared experience where you're like, yo, my parent also did this thing, and we're like, damn, that's crazy. We had the same childhood, and recognize like their traumas may show up differently. Herbie, you and I experienced the world in a different way. Same thing with everybody else on this panel. And so it is actually a requirement for us to look at each child on an individual case-by-case basis on how to engage them and how to ultimately, and though it may be frustrating on our end, because we're just like, just get it together. You're like, oh, but you are trying to figure out emotions. You don't know what to do with these emotions yet, and you don't know how to process them properly. And so it's interesting hearing what Kenny was saying, but also connecting it back to like how my coworkers think I need to engage with children. I'm like, no, what you think of discipline is one way, and it's also regional, right? Like my family from the South don't play none of that. But my family up here, you actually have, not all the time, but some people have the opportunity to kind of just speak and say, this is what I'm trying to articulate. And it is our job to help guide them through their emotions and understanding. And so I think it's very interesting on how when we talk around kids and safety and respect and power and what it looks like, oftentimes we strip the kid of their own agency because we assume that they don't know what to do with it.
I'm assuming these are other Black people, right, Marquise?
These are other, these are other Black people.
That makes sense.
I'm happy that you are in proximity to teaching kids.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
That's all I have to add to that. I'm very happy. I'm pleased.
Why are we laughing?
That was
It
so
is.
sweet.
It is, but they okay.
It was so warm. Thank you.
That's
Like,
and that
truly.
just shows you, Kenny. Like you see, that should tell you something. They ready. Herbie
Here
right
you
there
go.
was wide
Here you go, about to victimize yourself again. Here you go, big body Ben. No, Marquise.
I can change my name to Big Body Benz now. It's gonna happen.
It's
gonna
only
happen.
right.
It's only
No,
right
but
for real.
I agree. If I had a teacher like you, Marquise, I probably would have felt seen. Not only because, like, you said this multiple times, like you refrain from calling boys young men. And of course, I could run into the piece of like, you don't know if every single one of those male presenting children are going to identify as men one day. But then it's also like, everybody doesn't even want to they may not have access to it, or they may not want to utilize the language of non-binary-ism or identify in that way, but they navigate life in a way where I understand what it is to be a man socially. And I just don't want to live in that way because it feels too narrow, too marginalizing, too restrictive. And you giving these young children the autonomy to define for themselves what it means to be a male person it is just very liberating to hear. So I echo the sentiments of Big Body Benz.
There we go. You see, we could end on that one. That is beautiful.
Okay, beautiful. We have a show.
Olay, before you speak, you sound a little lower than everybody else.
Am I lower? Oh, am I lower?
Yeah.
I was gonna say he probably.
Somebody sing something, entertain the people while we work through these negativities, these financial difficulties. What's the term? Oh, technical.
Is it now or now?
Wait,
Now?
you said it was a
Y'all can hear me?
Freudian. It's a little loud.
You have one ear headphone?
Now we're loud? Okay. What about
Yeah,
now?
girl, why you
That's a little better.
Like lower now? You need me to be lower again?
Oh, fuck, you
lower,
sound like
lower.
a Death Grip song.
Okay, you can hear me now? What about now?
It's like rock and roll.
Still too loud?
This is loud. Maybe you could back the mic up and this might work.
Okay, am I too loud?
for it.
Okay, wait, hold on. What about now?
I scared. I have
That's
small
great.
ears.
That's great.
Alright.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, okay. It's not. I can't fuck off my key.
Wait, does anybody else think it's good? Because I don't want to be the person that says.
No,
it's
you're
good.
right.
Yeah.
It's good.
You right, but I scared because when a limey get excited, everybody ear getting shot. I talking everybody ears getting shot. Like, so I scared.
Leave me alone.
Girl,
When she starts shouting, and that shit just look like a block of sound. Raw.
Stop what you're doing and listen up. You just watched a video on one of my channels, but the Olurin verse is huge, and I want to tell you what everything is and how to find it. The Olurin verse has 6 channels. On the YouTube homepage of any one of those channels, every single channel in the Olurin verse is featured at the bottom of the page, so you can always easily find them. Okay? Remember I said that. Don't say I ain't tell you how to find it. Subscribe to my main channel, Olurin, to find my Olurin productions, which are my long-form video essays, and also all of my backlog of content. Subscribe to my second love child, Olurin Pop, for my weekly video essays analyzing my favorite TV and movie shows and characters. Olurin Pop also has its own Patreon where you get all of those videos uncensored. Subscribe to my channel, Olay Friends, for my podcast, Olay Friends. New episodes of Olay Friends come out every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern. Subscribe to Olay Chill for new episodes of my podcast, Olay Chill, every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern. And also, both Olay Friends and Olay Chill are both available on streaming platforms like Spotify. Subscribe to Olurin Bites if you want my takes, but you don't have an hour to spend. Subscribe to Olurin Politics for my political analysis and my State of the Union type addresses on my show O Squared. And last but not least, subscribe to my Substack Olurin for my written work.